Hey guys, Jordan here, back again with another tutorial. Today I wanted to teach you guys how to use hardcore. So hardcore is something that comes with the FL Studio Producer Edition, and it's a really good plugin, and not a lot of people really know how to use it. But you can make some really amazing sounds with it, specifically sounds that have a sort of electric guitar kind of vibe to it, or just like a very gritty kind of vibe. Hardcore is pretty difficult to use, to be honest with you. It's definitely not an easy plugin to use, and it can sort of put people off because what will sort of happen typically is, let's say you're trying to make a sound. So I'm just going to just delete everything here because I'm not going to need it for this tutorial today. So we just delete everything, and let's say you're just like using Harmor, right? You just open up Harmor, delete that as well, and then you route it, and it's typically a saw wave that's really loud. Let me get the default preset for that. So yeah, typically, you'll lay down like a sort of basic chord progression, right? Something like that. And then you'll think, oh, what can I do to make this sound better? So you'll open up hardcore like this, and then you'll go onto the presets, and then you'll think, oh, what about the first lead? Still gonna let me do it. And it kind of will just sound like all over the place, right? You're like, oh, that doesn't sound nice. So you keep scrolling through, and you're like, oh, that's too loud. And they're all too loud, or it's a bit too funky. Although that one's quite nice. But one thing I kind of realized about hardcore is that the people who made it, oh, sorry about that. Yeah, one thing I realized about hardcore is that the people who made it more for sound designers. So hardcore in and of itself does apply modulation to your sound, just even if it's just set to default. So let's just try and like get the difference. And what it's doing is it's essentially applying almost a guitar rig to your sound. It's making your sound more like an electric guitar, just straight away. So what people can tend to do is they will take a sound like this, or a more simpler sound, like just a bass, right? So we can sort of delete, I guess, this, and just bring it down one. So yeah, a common use for hardcore is to just use it as a bass, right? So you would come here, and you might want to just do like a low pass. And it kind of makes that sort of electric kind of bass sound just initially. So you can make really nice basses with hardcore. The premise of hardcore is a comb filter. So it's a comb filter distorter, I guess you could say. And a comb filter, which you've probably seen in my other videos, I'm going to just disable the low pass here by setting this back to default. A comb filter is essentially, we call it a comb filter because you're going to have things like this that sort of look like combs, right? Like this. And that's essentially what hardcore is doing. And a guitar rig is a comb filter as well, essentially of a saw wave. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what hardcore is doing, and I'm going to do it without hardcore. So essentially I'm going to make a guitar, electric guitar, or a pretty bad one, I guess, just without hardcore. So I can just show you what a comb filter essentially is in this case. So we have a normal saw wave here. And so what we're going to do is I think I have a preset called fuck mids. And what it's basically doing is it's just cancelling out the mids, and then we're going to apply one more filter, and I'll show you it in more detail. Do the So an electric guitar, let's open up span so we can analyze it. Span is here. An electric guitar is essentially these bass frequencies, hardly any mids, and the upper harmonics. And to really get that kind of typical sound, what you do is you add another filter and you emphasize the volume here. And from here on, you just want to sort of fine tune the sound. Like this. And so that's essentially what an electric guitar typically is. And that is equally essentially what hardcore is doing. So let's disable these filters and just listen to our sound again. Just check it out on the EQ. So hardcore is essentially doing the same thing. It has a different algorithm, but it's sort of emphasizing the lows, removing the mids, and bringing in the highs. And as you can see, here's the combs. So you can see where the comb filters are coming in. Boom, boom, and boom. Okay. So that's essentially what hardcore is doing, just so you're aware. And with that bass algorithm, there's a bunch of effects you can add to it, which is sort of where hardcore starts to shine. Okay, so we have our hardcore open here, and we have a nice chord progression going on. So what we can do is we can open up hardcore, and we can firstly start with one of the most important, I would say, filters, which is the tube drive. And I couldn't really explain what the tube drive is in a, you know, how would you say, in an academic way, but I can give you an idea of what it's doing. So we're going to have the tube drive on, and we're going to open up the filter. So just pay attention to the EQ here. So it has a legato. And it's essentially driving, I guess drive is the right word. It's driving certain frequencies up. And it creates this kind of tube, like it sort of says, a tube effect. It's a tube distorter. And the most important thing about this is you can adjust how much you want the lows and the highs, which is the most important thing. That is a fucking amazing bass, right? Like that's such a nice bass that you could make for your song. And you would already say that this is better than like all of the presets that like you have access to here. Because again, like this program is more for sound designers, and these presets that were made I don't think are that good. Except for Acid Rock is really good. I like Acid Rock. Just removing the reverb. With a little bit of modulation, you can make Acid Rock really go hard. So we're going to just put it back to default and enable the tube drive again. So yeah, tube drive is where you kind of want to be a lot of the time. With hardcore. So obviously hardcore has lots of other different things. But Tube Drive is the easiest to use, but there's obviously the distorter, right? This is how you enable and disable things in hardcore. There's a little button here, so it's disabled right now. Yeah, so obviously these are all different models, but they're all different comb filters. So I was on model A. I should have mentioned that I was on model A, but they're all different kinds of comb filters that you can experiment with. So yeah, yeah, there's the distorter, which is right here. And it literally distorts. And again, it can be a little bit scary, but as long as you can sort of control what frequencies and amplitudes you want using a comb filter by just making it with an EQ, you can typically make the distortion sound really nice. And in hardcore, there's some really nice sort of knobs you can tweak to make it sound really amazing. So let's enable the distortion. And we're just going to play around with these 4 bars here. Glass is literally basically a tube drive of the upper range, and I'd say it's probably one of the most important things. Inferno is also really it kind of describes what it's doing by itself. And of course you can put a tube drive as well, and essentially just have it so that it's just filtering out the low end. And you can also EQ the low end out if you want as well. And you can also remove the mids to sort of give it that. Okay, so it becomes a pretty intuitive program, like when you kind of realize how it is a pretty simple, and it has some brilliant like sort of choruses as well, which are worth playing with. So let's look at the chorus. So chorus typically works really well in the upper range, so we're going to move this up an octave. There we are, and we're going to grab the chorus. I would say hardcore probably has one of the best chorus modulators in like all of the plugins that you would have access to. It's a beautiful chorus. I really love the chorus in hardcore. There's chorus and there is a modulator. Which is awesome. You have where is it? You have the flanger, I believe, yeah, the flanger. The reverb. And an equalizer, which I'm sure you guys all know how to use already. But when you combine them all together, you can make some really nice sounds. And with a little bit of EQing, so let's bring it up. Should be able to make something pretty good. If we just do a band pass. And just add some more chords. And you could easily clone this, apply the exact same filters, grab this, just make a pluck, basically. We're gonna might just do it like this, I guess. And we can just increase the frequency, add the unison, and just give it a decay. move this to the second one, and I'm just going to drag this over like this, and I'm going to drag this over as well. Just want to remove some of the mud. Yeah, you kind of have to know how to comb filter with hardcore, so it's really good to have Pro Q3 because it makes it a lot easier. And you can remove a lot of like the noise. But I'm not going to do that today because it's a lot of effort, but it hopefully sound alright. And then the one thing that you can typically do is just sort of unroute these and then just route them to mixer 3, and then you can just sort of modulate the entire synth. I'll probably just mess around with this like a little bit later, but hopefully you can sort of see that, you know, hardcore, it's not something you should shy away from. Like hardly anyone really uses hardcore except me. But there was one project I really enjoyed. There's one project I really enjoyed using hardcore that I'll show you, and it was to make this particular sound here. So I'm gonna just solo it. And I just really like that sound. It's got that kind of real sort of guitar amp going on, and it really is just hardcore with a tube drive and a delay, a little bit of overdrive, and the synth is it 2? Yeah, the synth is just a dirt wave shape, nothing else. That's it. You know, so you can make some really nice simple sounds as playing the go to the right one. There we go. So it's playing a really simple chord, and there you go. You know, it's a nice sound. So you can make some really nice sounds with hardcore. So I really recommend like experiment with it, messing around, and see what you can get. So I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, guys, and I'll be sure to catch you in the next one. Peace.